Aaron Power here. These are unscripted riffs, by the way, but I did jot down a few talking points today because I want to get through this relatively quickly. What I want to talk about is body fat, a thing that everybody hates. Everybody hates body fat. Everybody wants less body fat. I help people lose body fat. That's one of the things that I promise to help do for people. The conversation around body fat is much more nuanced than diet programming and beauty culture programming has led you to believe. Sorry, I'm already throwing dieting and beauty under the bus. As mature women, we were programmed into a certain kind of beauty ideal, which really favors tininess, thinness, leanness, skinniness, lightness. The smaller, the better. Shrink it, shrink it, shrink it. I will say, parenthetically, that what I'm seeing in some of the younger women, because the beauty ideal has evolved, right? So these younger women are coming in where it's like, butts and like boobs and muscle and curves. And it's interesting. The aesthetic is different. But we older women, we were really brought up with this tiny is better, skinny, light, smaller, shrink, the whole thing. That's deeply programmed into you. Deeply programmed. Boy, I wish I had the solution for that, but I don't. Remember the movie The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where you could go to this clinic and have your memories erased, so you didn't have to like grieve the loss of relationships and love and all the things, all the dumb programming that gets into your brain and that you ruminate on. Maybe we could do that. Maybe we could eternal sunshine our body image programming. That'd be cool. But until that technology exists, we're kind of stuck with it. So what I like to do personally is I like to just sort of maybe intellectualize the conversation. So rather than feeling like I'm a victim of it or I'm accepting the narrative, I want to understand the narrative and maybe I get the power back in doing that. So if you find that that might be interesting to you, I would offer that even if you don't think it sounds that interesting, I think it will be a useful exercise. If you have been spinning your wheels trying to lose fat, lose weight, change the relative shape and size of your body, if you've been fighting this battle for decades of your life, and you're kind of tired of it, and you're kind of ready to like step into a different relationship with your body, then I think stepping into a different relationship with your body fat is a good place to start. See, nobody in the world really seems to care too much about like increasing their bone density or preserving their lean body mass. That hasn't been glorified. There's nothing beautiful about thick, strong bones, right? This is why the beauty ideal is such a factor. The desire to shrink and become smaller and leaner has nothing to do with health. It truly has mostly to do with wanting to look a certain way. But don't worry, I'm going to keep this conversation deep and light at the same time. I'm not going to overwhelm you. I want to talk about it from the perspective of beauty, of body image, and of health. I have a lot of ground to cover, so I'm going to get right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is that women, we have an essential body fatness. This idea of essential body fat, we have to start with this because when we're thinking about removing fat off of our body, we have to first start by saying, well, how much is supposed to be there? The answer is not zero. You're not supposed to be a fat-free animal. That would be hugely dangerous. From a survival of the species perspective, remember, I always think of this stuff in terms of evolutionary biology. Our species had to survive. Body fat exists so we can survive individually through famine. And so we can survive systemically as a species by reproducing. We need fat. Fat is absolute gold from the perspective of survival of the individual animal and the species. Absolute gold. I know you don't think your body fat is gold. I know you probably hate it, but it's amazing. The fact that your body can and will store infinite fuel on your body as fat is fascinating, incredible, amazing, thank goodness. Essential body fat. So I just looked this up really quick. According to the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, there are healthy body fat percentages based on your age. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about the age because the differential between ages isn't that significant. So women's essential body fat is somewhere between 22 to 32% body fat. A third of your body composition, roughly, is fat. Now, 22 to 32% is a pretty wide differential. We do fluctuate. We're going to be up and down, depending on season, hormones, life stage, genetics, you name it, right? Pretty big window. There are visual guides on the internet so you can kind of visualize what this looks like, because to know your body fat percentage, you'd have to go and get a very accurate body composition tests done. By the way, the ones done in like gyms are not really that accurate at all. The most accurate is called a DEXA scan. They're a little hard to get. I mean, in Canada, you need a referral. In the US, you can go get them pay out of pocket, I think, at some clinics. It's really hard actually to get your body fat tested. And by the way, I don't necessarily know if you need to. I mean, I don't really necessarily, it's just another number to fixate on, quite honestly. So I recently had my body composition tested using one of these in-office scanners, so not accurate, but I just wanted to make sure I wasn't losing lean body mass, which is muscle and bone, because I'm aging and I can't afford to lose lean body mass, and neither can you, by the way. So I just want to make sure that number's kind of staying the same. I don't even care about my body fat. In fact, I asked the clinician, I said, hey, when you show me the reading, can you cover up the body fat percentage? Because I don't care. I think I'm doing okay. I can look down at my body and say, no, I'm all right. I'm fine. I'm not going to win any bikini contests, but I definitely don't have a lot of extra subcutaneous fat, but I'm really concerned about my lean body mass. So can you just cover up all the other pieces? I don't want to become obsessed with my body fat percentage, because I also am programmed into very disordered body dysmorphic beauty ideal stuff. And I don't want to trigger that part of me. I got bigger fish to fry, man. So I want to show you this. I'm going to share my screen for 2 quick seconds. This is like a visual body fat chart. I hope it's helpful. This is one of many, and I don't necessarily know how accurate these are, but so like, I think for a lot of women, we're like, gosh, I'd love to look like one of these 2 gals up top on the left here. Maybe I'd even settle for this gal in the middle, the 12, the 15, the 20%. Those are lower than normal female physiological body fat. That is below essential fatness for women. So that's hard ass work. That is a constant battle. By the way, some women are leaner because there's genetic outliers. Some people are softer, some people are leaner, and that's cool too. But like, if you don't naturally skew really lean like one of these girlies on the left here, then if you wanted to get that lean, congratulations, you're gonna have to devote your whole life to that. Okay, so now we get this girl here, 25%, the one in the top corner. Okay, so she's looking soft around the midsection, around her hips. You know, the where your body deposits fat is also going to be different, right? So some women are leaner upper body and sort of softer lower body. I'm the opposite. I have a lean lower body and a softer upper body, right? We go down here, 30%. Now she's starting to get a little sort of more soft, but still on the outside edge of like normal female physiological fat. So you might look at the 25% gal and say, well, that would be nice. You might look at the 30% gal and say, well, that's what I look like. Or I don't even want to look like that. That's too fat, you might say. But this is still in the normal range for essential fat for women. I just think I needed to start this fat conversation by talking about essential fat. We have a need for fat on our bodies. Females, we are the reproductive powerhouses of the species. We can't afford to be, we need the fuel. We need the fuel on our body to facilitate the growth and development of a baby, right? So whether or not you ever plan to have babies, I didn't, I never had any, but I'm still a biological female. My biology is wired for that. So is yours. Okay. Then we get to the higher body fat percentages, and it truly doesn't matter. What I wanted to draw my attention to here is, first of all, what the normal essential body fat range is for women. It's the sort of far right corner up here and the bottom left down here. These 3 gals who represent the body that we'd like to have, they live on a spectrum of body fatness that is lower than essential. So you're gonna have to battle to keep that. So first of all, we have to start with like, what do you want here? What's your end goal? What kind of body shape or size do you want, right? And is it realistic, or are you signing up for a fight? And if you are, that's completely up to you. The next thing I really want to talk about is how this is not measured on the scale. If you're getting on the scale wondering how fat you are, it's not going to tell you. Your bathroom scale tells you absolutely nothing. Period. End of story. What do we care about? Maybe we care about fat mass. Maybe we care about bone density. I would hope so. Maybe we care about lean body mass. I would hope so. In fact, I would hope you care more about bone density and lean body mass than fat mass, because those are actually important. Lean body mass and bone mass are really important. Fat, not as important, but we're going to talk about that in a second. But either way, the bathroom scale tells you nothing, doesn't tell you. Imagine a scenario where you maintained your weight for your whole life. From age 25 to 65, you're like, I weigh 130 pounds. I've maintained my weight. That might not be a good thing, because as you age, you're losing lean body mass unless you're fighting to keep it. Okay, so let's imagine you haven't changed anything. You're just naturally 130-pound person. You haven't changed your exercise or your nutritional inputs. There's a good chance that your lean body mass, your muscle and your bone has decreased, in which case, if your weight is staying the same, that means your body fat has increased. So your body composition is kind of doing this. The weight on the scale says the same thing. That's not good. We don't really want our body composition to shift away from muscle and bone toward fat. The shift in body composition is interesting to keep track of, but it's not measured on your scale at all. So honestly, get rid of that thing. You can tell if you're gaining or losing fat based on how your clothing fits. So just me once again reminding you that your bathroom scale is a complete tool of ignorance. The bathroom scale is the wrong tool to measure your body fat if you care about your body fat. Types of fat. So we have two kinds. So we have essential fat. Essential fat, we're going to categorize that. So about 22 to 32% for women is essential fat, the fat we need on and in our body to facilitate reproduction. There you go. Okay. The extra fat that we store over and above our essential fat is now our storage fat for periods of famine and scarcity and the extra stuff, right? The extra stuff that goes on that we would like to lose. This is called subcutaneous fat. It's the pinchable, squishy stuff that, hangs over your bra strap. It hangs over your pants. It's the back fat that you can pinch, back there. Whatever. It's sort of the chunky, squishy stuff that maybe jiggles and it's soft to the touch and you can poke it. And it's the fat that we really just hate. We just really hate this fat. And I want to just validate that you hate it because you were taught to hate it. I want to validate that. You were taught as a modern human to hate this fat, but I'll tell you what, if you were a prehistoric human, you wouldn't be hating it at all. By the way, you are a prehistoric human, just so you know. Subcutaneous fat is, for all intents and purposes, not even that unhealthy. I mean, honestly, your body wouldn't create a storage form of energy that's unhealthy. Subcutaneous fat is not necessarily an evil, unhealthy fat. I would almost call it the healthy fat. I would call subcutaneous fat healthy fat. Now, you can have too much of it where you don't like the way you look or feel. It can slow you down, can make you feel a little bit sort of non-agile. If you've got a little extra, it makes you feel uncomfortable in your clothing. It plays with your confidence, right? So you can tell when you have a little extra. We don't like it. That stuff is metabolically deposited fat, right? For whatever reason, you sent a signal to your body that said, hey, store this away, store this away. Truly, if you have extra fat on your body, extra subcutaneous fat, you told your body to store it. Your body just did you a favor based on your diet, lifestyle inputs, whatever it is. You told the body to put this into storage, and it did. It did because you asked it to. If you want it to come out of storage, you just need to change the inputs. And this is what I work on with people. And there's a whole machinery involved in getting subcutaneous fat out of storage, traveling through the blood into the cells, burning as fuel. There's a machinery to it that is much more elegant and complex than just calories or macros or whatever, or cardio. It's slightly more complex and elegant. Subcutaneous fat is the stuff that we think is pretty gross and we don't like it. And I, again, want to validate that. There's nothing wrong with you if you don't like the look of fat on your body, because right now in the current culture beauty ideal, you've been trained to not like the look of fat on your body. But in some cultures, it's beautiful. In some time periods, it was beautiful. Right now, in your culture, it might not be. What are you going to do? That's the programming, right? Again, we don't have the eternal sunshine technology. Okay, the second type of fat that we need to talk about, though, this is visceral fat. And maybe you knew we were going to come here eventually. So visceral fat is fat that is now inside your body. And it kind of gets stored in around your organs, around your abdomen, around your liver, around your pancreas, all these internal trunk organs. The fat goes in between them. It's a really different fat storage pattern. And it can happen when we sort of send different signals into the body, more of a distress signal. This is more responsive to stress, lifestyle stress, anytime our modern human environment is mismatched from the way our body's expecting to work, so bad sleep, processed foods, weird light exposure, sleep, all this kind of kooky health stuff that sounds completely out of left field, especially if you were really indoctrinated into diet and exercise fitness culture, which I was as well. It sounds crazy to imagine that, wait, so my exposure to light is somehow affecting my fat storage pattern? Yes. By the way, your changes in female hormones as you go through the menopause transition can affect the fat storage pattern toward visceral and away from subcutaneous. And one of the reasons for that is because a post-reproductive woman is a less resilient woman. A reproductive woman is one of the most resilient creatures on planet Earth. You have to be, because you're responsible for the whole species reproduction. Like the survival of the species rests on women. So a reproductive woman is a very stress resilient creature, very, very, very resilient, strong, badass creature. Once you're no longer in the reproductive era, well, that resiliency drops. So we're more susceptible to stress. We're more susceptible to dodgy food choices. We're more susceptible to bad sleep patterns. We're just a little more sensitive to things. So fat storage pattern changes from subcutaneous to visceral. Now, you probably know that visceral fat is dangerous. The more deeper understanding of this is that visceral fat has the potential to become dangerous because it's in amongst your organs. And if it runs out of space, it's going to go in your organs. Fatty liver, fatty pancreas, fatty organs, not good. That's very dangerous. That's where disease begins. Okay, so visceral fat is not automatically harmful, but it has a potential to become harmful. I just want to be really clear on my language there. Visceral fat, though, changes the shape of your body. It changes the shape of your body. So I've heard women say this. Usually if I put on extra weight, it's kind of in my hips, my thighs or my boobs or my upper arms. But lately it's like been kind of shrunk. Like I kind of feel thicker. I kind of feel blockier. I feel like more rectangular or straight or tubular. This description of a shape change, not even the pinchableness. It's just my shape changed. My clothes fit differently now. And then what do? We gravitate toward strenuous dieting and exercising to try to lose weight. And that's a stressor on the body, which is potentially the thing that encouraged the visceral fat patterning anyway. We're adding gasoline to the fire sometimes, especially in midlife. If we're going to keep dieting, exercising harder to change this visceral fat pattern, it doesn't respond. Visceral fat doesn't respond to diet and exercise like subcutaneous fat might. Visceral fat responds to all these other things that I mentioned before: stress, sleep, circadian rhythms, food quality, your nervous system state. It's this fat that's stored in because of our lower resiliency. It's a very deep storage fat that represents a stress hormone storage pattern. But you're more susceptible to stress as you age. So little things that don't even seem stressful. By the way, if you say, obviously I'm stressed out because, hello, life is really stressful, but don't worry, I handle it well. I would say, I don't think you are handling it well metabolically because you just told me that you have all this abdominal chunkiness that you want to get rid of. So you might think you're handling it well, but your body knows better. You actually literally have to handle and manage the stressors in your life. You can't just pretend that they don't exist. We can't just manage stress by ignoring stress. We have to face it head on. Women want to lose fat off their body because they don't like the way their body looks or feels in or out of their clothes. That could be subcutaneous fat, but it also could be visceral fat. So you need to kind of be more clear on what are we talking about here? In fact, because I work with clients virtually, I'll ask them on Zoom calls like this, I'll say, you keep referring to this lower belly fat that you have. Can you do me a favor and just reach down and pinch it for me? You don't have to show it to me. I just want you to grab the handful of fat and tell me what it feels like. And they'll say, well, it's actually hard. I can't really pinch. There's not much to pinch down there. It's just, but it's protruding. Like, okay, so that's either visceral fat or some kind of gut issue. You're bloated. It's a hard protruding abdomen. That's not fat. It's not subcutaneous fat. It's not the fat that responds to diet and exercise. It's fat that responds to lifestyle change, or maybe it's a gut health thing. I just need you to know how nuanced this whole body shape, body composition conversation ends up being. I think too, just close the loop. When we're talking about fat loss, if you're going to talk to me about fat loss, first of all, if you say weight loss, I'm going to reprogram you to say fat loss. Say fat loss. Don't say weight loss because I don't care about your weight. Your weight is a pointless number. It means nothing. And then I need to know what kind of fat are we talking about. If it's subcutaneous, it responds to these metabolic inputs. Fat is stored as fuel. It's also burned as fuel. And if you're storing but not burning, that's a metabolism problem that just needs to be fixed. If it's a visceral fat, then you need to change your whole lifestyle. You need to change how you sleep, how you stress, how you feel. And when you start to lose fat, when we start to get all these factors combined, so we have the lifestyle factor, we have the diet, we have the sleep, we have this all working. Because in my program, I deal with all of this stuff just on the off chance, because most people have both kinds of fat to lose, quite honestly. Because I work with midlife women. They have visceral fat and they have subcutaneous fat. We have to work on them both at the same time so you can get the body shape that change you want. Visceral fat seems to go first, which is good news. It was never really meant to be there. It's really not supposed to be in amongst your organs. So when we start changing these inputs, the visceral fat goes first. So you will feel like your body shape changes, but you still feel pinchy. You like, I can still pinch the fat, but it looks like my body looks different. Women say this to me all the time. Like, I don't think I've lost any fat, but I look different in the mirror. I'm like, then you lost some fat. I mean, like, it's just the fat that's inside your body that's not supposed to be there. It's like your body seeks and destroys that fat first because it's not supposed to be there. Subcutaneous fat is supposed to be there. It's great. It's very healthy. So once we get through the visceral fat, then your body's going to move to the subcutaneous fat, start chipping away at that. I can get you to your essential fatness. I can get you to like a 25%. Like, I'm not over here trying to get you lean. I don't do that. That's more of like a crash diet approach to get you really lean, like a bodybuilder, bikini show diet. I don't do those. But I can get you to your relative leanness, the essential fat that women are supposed to have, through these sort of long, arduous processes of seeking and destroying the visceral fat and then turning attention to subcutaneous fat. These are all lifestyle and metabolic pathways. It's not just calories in, calories out. It's not just diet and exercise. I just need you to know that. And I don't say that to discourage you. I say that to encourage you, because if you're spinning your wheels, literally in spin classes, like, why isn't it working? You need to change it. You need to try something completely different. And I can teach you how to do that, but also the internet is full of experts. If you're a really self-motivated person, you could track it down. Now that you know more about your body fat, your visceral fat, your subcutaneous fat, your essential fat, you can start to do some digging. You can start to learn about this stuff. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. Okay?